Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and in this video, towards the end here, I'm going to show you something very interesting, or let you listen to something very interesting. I found an interview with Ken Curson, who's on the board of directors of Ripple, that I had not heard previously. I had missed it. I don't know if anybody else had found it, but I just found it for the first time myself, and I want to play you some clips, and you're going to find out how Ken Curson might be tied to Chris Giancarlo, who runs the Digital Dollar Project. That would be the same Chris Giancarlo who works for Wilkie Farr, I believe is the name of the law firm, who is general counsel, or not general counsel, but a counsel to Ripple, a law firm Ripple hired. So get ready, because I have some interesting sound clips. Ken Curson talks about the XRP army, all kinds of different topics, and you're going to enjoy these. First, I wanted to show you the market has continued to hold its own. We've got 276 billion right now. XRP has crossed 20 cents and has kind of stayed there. Stellar's up 10.5%. V-Chain's up like crazy. Here's Fiat Leak at over 20 cents. Apparently, Japan has not woken up yet. They're going to be waking up soon, I think. And then I want to show you a couple more interesting things before I get to the Ken Curson. This is from Gold Telegraph. 32% of Americans have not made their full housing payments for July yet. That's per CNBC. 32%. Man, I don't even know what to say about that. And then Brad Garlinghouse tweeted this out today. It's unacceptable that those who have the least often pay the most. Remittances have long been underserved by traditional finance, even as they make up a huge part of the global economy. You want to help the unbanked? Start there. And he's retweeting this from David Malpass, Good Wall Street Journal article on the importance of remittance flows to the developing world. As we address the current events impact, we must work toward recovery for advanced economies, supporting the poor and keeping remittance channels open. That's what Ripple's doing. And then I liked this I Am Legion tweet. The replacement. What if Swift's replacement is not only about the tech, but also about geopolitics? What if the biggest countries sat down, including the U.S., and agreed that it's time for a level playing field in replacement of Swift? What would that look like? Well, this is part of what I kind of believe. I kind of believe China is in the game, and I believe the U.S. is in the game. You have to wonder if Trump worked something out with these guys. Remember, all the world's a stage, folks. Okay, let's get to Ken Curson. He's on the Ripple board, right? And just to give you a little reminder who Ken Curson is before I play, and I have several clips you're going to enjoy. This is Ken Curson. He worked for, I can't remember the name of the publication, but it was owned by Jared Kushner, who is Donald Trump's son-in-law. And then you'll remember this, where he's in the booth with Ivanka Trump. I can't remember what this was for, if it was a speech, maybe when Trump was running for office or whatever. And then this is also Ken Curson in the Oval Office. He admittedly is friends with Trump. But there's one thing that you probably didn't know, and that is that he is good friends with Chris Giancarlo, who is running the Digital Dollar Project. You will hear it here. So here we go. I'm going to give you the first clip. He's going to tell you. Now, the guy that's interviewing him, by the way, is Charlie Shrem of Bitcoin fame. If you've seen the Bitcoin documentary on Netflix, he's one of the key figures in that. Charlie Shrem is a pretty famous guy. I actually saw him when I was in Vegas last year. He was eating in a Mexican restaurant just one table over from me. Okay, so here we go. This is Charlie Shrem interviewing Ken Curson. Here's the first clip.
People. Obviously, I never envisioned cryptocurrency way back then, but the second I started hearing about it, and by the way, you were the very first Bitcoin I ever bought. The very first Bitcoin I ever bought, folks, ladies and gentlemen, was personally from Charlie Shrimp. But I had, at that point already had a lot of XRP and was so thrilled and delighted that these new forms of currency were, in my opinion, obviously going to replace outdated institutions like SWIFT and the Venezuelan National Treasury, et cetera.
When Bitcoin first came out and we started talking about it, you had been reporting, like you said, financially for years.
Okay, that was clip number 1. And then, so let's see, 17. Let me go I'm trying to find these as fast as I can. Here we go. Let's see.
So yeah, no, I do. I've even had a little tiny bit of influence. It's the regulatory risk. And it is substantial enough that they just don't feel that the value proposition is there. I think the first couple times, if any of these total crypto native institutions goes public, that's, I think, going to be the watershed event. Because what you're starting to see is some of the places have become really good hybrids. And I'm not talking about Coinbase, but like blockchain.com, for example, has really,
that's a good one. That's a good comparison.
They've taken this very stripped down purist aesthetic and slowly, little by little, added user interface and a little bit of customer service, offered more products, and they're starting to almost look like a Coinbase, not quite, but really keep their fees low and really have the security top notch. And I think as one of these places figures out a way to go public, it's gonna be a deluge. It's all of the banks. You're gonna have Wells Fargo will suddenly hire some big expert from from Bitstamp to run its crypto business, and it's just going to be indistinguishable.
I wonder about.
Okay, I thought that was interesting. So he's basically saying when you see that first IPO, strap in because here comes the world. Now let's go to the next clip. It's kind of hard to get to the exact spot that you want to get to here. Let's try that.
Realistically, internally, what is the administration? What is the government? What do regulators think about crypto? Tell us what's going on in behind closed doors.
Wait a minute. I think I got to the wrong place there. Here we go. Right there.
Of course, the different regulating bodies, it's front and center. A very good friend of mine recently retired as the head of, as the chairman of the CFTC, for example, Giancarlo. He's a good friend of mine for 20 years.
He's big.
What do you say?
Everyone loves him.
Exactly. So he's acquired this nickname of Bitcoin Dad. And, I try really hard never to use any sort of access that I have through friendships to any kind of personal advantage. It's a toxic way to get yourself in trouble, and it's not a way to be a good friend either, because you can get in trouble people around you. So, but he acquired that nickname because of his genuine and sincere interest in the space. So what I can tell you is that it's very much on the mind of people at the CFTC, at the SEC, at the United States Treasury, and I'm quite frankly surprised that there hasn't been more action on this, because the Chinese have used our inaction to take a major advantage, and this is why Bitcoin maximalists and Bitcoin purists kind of surprise me, because they're all about decentralization, but when you've got the most totalitarian country on earth having well over 50% of the mining ability, you've really got a dangerous level of centralization. So I've been surprised that the United States regulators, and frankly, Western regulators, because there's lots of democracies in the East that have been way more forward thinking, but the American regulators and the European regulators have been so slow to say, these are the, the phrase hexure. I'm not sure if you're audience does. But these are the kosher tokens, the ones that have not, committed fraud, have not used illegal ICOs, and go in peace and develop great businesses and employ lots of Americans and pay lots of taxes. That's what they should be doing. But they haven't, and I don't know why.
You're right. And to further extend that.
Okay, and then there's the next clip is right here, I think.
To go forward one way or another. You're very smart. You understand. I want to talk about Ripple for a second because I really don't talk about it on this show ever. Well, mostly because the folks that were my friends that had founded Ripple left. When you and I were talking about Ripple and other crypto, my friends were still there. Some of them are still there, but these were some of, I remember you were talking to me about Stellar. You were asking me about Jed. And so, but I guess, do you understand the feedback or the negative responses or the negativity that comes from not just hardcore maximalists, but the middle of the road, the center of the aisle, crypto folk? Do you understand why they come after Ripple so much? Do you understand why XRP has become like the poster child for everything that people don't want crypto to be? And I'm not saying that that's true or not, but you see crypto Twitter, I guess my question is like, why is that? And are any of the negative feedback fair?
The way I understand it is that the anarchist wing of crypto, the originalists who saw it as a decentralized, uninstitutionalized utopia would naturally view Ripple with its efforts to follow the rules and all this know your customer and anti-money laundering rules as the enemy. They're the corporatists. And as in any revolution, it's the people who mostly agree with you who endure the most contempt rather than your actual enemy. So you're going to see in this Democratic primary, some of the most vicious shots are going to be taken against each other by the people who are closest to each other, because that's how you draw distinctions. So it's, of course they hate Trump, but they're going to really reserve their contempt and their personal animus for fellow Democrats who prefer a different candidate. That's just sort of human nature. So I totally get that the originalists who, invented the idea of crypto and who bought into, who've read Satoshi's white paper and bought Bitcoins like I did from you when I felt like giving you $200 was basically tzedakah so that you could go to, go to Pennsylvania with a few shekels.
Yeah.
I think that when you look at Ripple and you see people who have made a lot of money and try to follow the rules, you feel like you're looking at IBM in the 60s. It's the antithesis of the culture you want. And I think that what was so interesting to me about the time I was talking to you about this was to me, Jed McCaleb kind of embodied that aesthetic. He was a surfer, good-looking guy, brilliant, but so clearly not interested in like a 9-to-5 corporate lifestyle. So that's why that dynamic was so interesting to me as a journalist. And on the other hand, I think it's complete nonsense that Ripple has, in some cases, assumed this almost Darth Vader-like persona on some of crypto Twitter, because first of all, Ripple is innovating like crazy. I mean, just their science is really cutting edge, and they're doing great stuff. They're using these resources that they've put together for the good of the crypto community. I mean, to me, just proof of stake is just like as big an innovation in the crypto world as anything that's been invented. That were Bitcoin really to have become a medium of exchange, it would have like sort of ended the earth in an environmental catastrophe. So, having just Jed and others inventing proof of stake is like an incredibly important innovation in the world of crypto. So that alone should diffuse some of that criticism, right? But secondly, these are really good people trying really hard to bring this into the mainstream. And to me, it's like when you meet someone and they don't like U2 anymore because they liked them when they heard their first album and no one liked them. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it. It's a different aesthetic when the band is playing in Giant Stadium versus CBGB's. But a real fan kind of loved them at CBGB's and continues to love them at Giant Stadium, even if the experience is different. So that's how I read that.
Okay. I thought these were some really good clips. Here comes, here's another one let's see if I can find this. Yes, there we go.
What makes it cryptocurrency, then okay. Then,
I see your point now. It's a good point.
What I'd also add is that everyone I know who is, you've made the point about how XRP is the enemy or Ripple is the enemy. There's plenty of people in the XRP army too. So everyone I know who is into XRP and who's
why is there an XRP army? Like, what's the point of it?
Because I think of what I said is true, that they're doing really good stuff, and people who care about elements other than the few that the maximalists value, see the value in what Ripple is doing. What I was going to say is that everyone I know who is an XRP guy, and I mean everyone, I was just talking about this with Stefan Thomas, owns Bitcoin. Not only believes in Bitcoin or got into it through Bitcoin, but owns it currently. Whereas there's a ton of Bitcoin holders who only own Bitcoin, would never consider any other token. And to me, it's like there's a religious fervor around it that I find uncomfortable. Even as a religious person, it's like the difference between being a religious person who accepts that other people feel about their faith as strongly as you feel about yours, and that's okay, versus the guy who's like, nope, you got to be my faith, or else not only am I, going to threaten you with hell and damnation, but I might do a crusade and try and kill you. So it's to me, it's okay to have a religion and kind of be interested in other religions as well.
I never heard anyone.
All right. And then the next clip, there's so many good ones in here. Let me see if I can get close to where we need to be here.
Is the XRP army a vocal minority, or do you think that it's a larger part of the community to be almost that hostility where if they don't like us, then they don't understand us. What we're doing is so important that it doesn't matter what the means are as long as the ends are justified. Because that's what a lot of people think about XRP, whether or not it's true.
I am not a joiner, Charlie. I'm not on Twitter. I don't, Billy Bragg's got a great line in his song, Great Leap Forward. It says, if you've got a blacklist, I want to be on it. And I don't know how to assess, whether this mob is bigger and more dangerous than that mob, because I don't prefer to join any mob.
It's stupid.
I think it is. I think it's stupid. I think there's James Madison wrote about Socrates and the danger of mobs, that even if every single member of the mob that eventually called for Socrates' death was himself a Socrates, it's still a mob. And I think that's true. I think that when you get group psychology, where you have to sort of show off for the other members of the group that you are even more committed to the group than they are, it brings out the worst in human nature. So your question about, is the XRP army real? Is it how powerful is it? I don't know. And I don't care, because I don't consider myself part of it. I don't want to be part of any group. And I just, I admire what the company is doing. They just keep innovating and doing their thing. And, I'm proud to be part of it.
You, speaking.
All right. And then here is the last clip. This to me is probably the most interesting clip too. It's about 4 minutes. Here, let's see. Let me make sure I will find it. All right, here we go.
As those places like Manhattan wants to put a pied-à-terre tax on people, which is just another way of stealing money. Bitcoin becomes a better and better option. And other currencies such as XRP, it's in use right now. And in the Mexico to the United States corridor, which is a massive corridor where Mexican laborers come to our country, do a ton of work, get paid, and want to send money home. And the traditional, if they send $100 through Western Union, it could cost $39. That's crazy. So right now, through MoneyGram, 10% of the Mexican to American transactions are already done on XRP, where it's virtually free, it's virtually instantaneous, and the throughput capacity is approaching Visa. So there's not dream scenarios anymore where you can say, I can envision where it could go this way or that way. It's starting to be a situation where you're starting to see it. And when MoneyGram says, well, our cost to transfer this money via XRP is only a fraction of what it was, then Western Union and others are going to get on board, and other corridors are going to open, Philippines to Japan, and et cetera.
Could the reason that a lot of the anti-Ripple folk get angry be because of what you just said? Because that, like you said, you're living the dream. It's not just some like, hey, this is what could be down the road. It's, hey, this is actually what's happening now. And the response from the super heavy Bitcoin maximalist will be, yeah, but it's not being done via a cryptocurrency, so it's not real. And my response would be, okay, so let me ask you another question. Would you rather people do remittance using Ripple, so where it's cheap, or would you rather people use remittance using Western Union and pay $40? And the response will be, to be honest, Ken, the response of a lot of people, unfortunately, is I'd rather people use remittance and pay the $40 than use Ripple because they're getting fucking scammed. That's what the response is. It's a stupid response.
No, exactly. To me, that's a response of someone who's not a Mexican laborer sending 39% of their money to a big corporation. So if you want to know why people sometimes get angry at Ripple or about XRP, you should have someone on your program who's angry at XRP. I don't want to speak for them.
No, I don't really like to have angry people on the show in general.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really bullish on this company because I think companies that save people lots of money with new disruptive solutions do well. But I'm also, in my heart, really committed to what they're doing because I have a heart for these people. I'm the son of an immigrant, a refugee, as a matter of fact, and I have a heart for these people who are trying to do remittances and look after people who've been, who are in countries far away. So this is a meaningful project to me, not just because I think it's going to make a lot of people a ton of money, which I do. I think it's solving a real problem in the world, and the pushback is evidence to me of just how afraid the institutions are that these problems will get solved because they're fighting so hard on the regulatory front to protect their turf.
He thinks it's going to make a lot of people a ton of money. I think that quote might be going in my thumbnail. My favorite quote. I am the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family that Ken Curson believes that a lot of people are going to make a ton of money because of Ripple and XRP. There you go. Thanks for listening.